Hello, Patricia. Hi, good evening. So today is the 2nd of July, and here in Germany it's 9:21 in the evening, and I am Laura Maria Caldarone. This is 14 Days to Change, and with us we have Patricia Gras. Patricia is the executive producer, writer, and owner of Love Smart Living Media. Hi, Patricia. Thank you again for being here. So Patricia is actually our fourth story in this series, but this is the second interview we have. The first one, we had it on the 17th of June. Yesterday, we tried to have the second one. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues, so we're doing it today. And yeah, I think two things. So before we really kick off this interview, I would like to say two things. The first one is just give an idea of how the numbers were back on the 17th of June, the first time Patricia and I spoke, and then tell you what the latest numbers are today for the USA and Texas. And yeah, first I'll do that. So back on the 17th of June, according to the COVID tracking project, there were 2,155,331 cases. So a little bit over 2.1 million. And there were 111,315 deaths. In Texas, instead, back then, we had a little bit over 96,000 cases, so 96,335 to be exact, and 2,062 deaths. Today, Texas has 168,062 cases and 2,481 deaths. Those are the latest numbers. Because of the time difference, we still don't have the ones for the 2nd of July. This is from the 1st of July. And yesterday, the total cases for the USA were 2,674,813 cases. So we're almost 2.7 million cases in the United States. And there are, unfortunately, a little bit over 120,000 deaths, 120,853 to be exact. A lot of things have changed in these 14 days and 1 day because of the technical issue. Patricia, I was reading earlier today that at the beginning of June, Texas had around 1,100 new cases a day. And yesterday, you had over 8,000 cases.
Yep.
Yesterday was another record for the USA in general. It had around 50,000 new cases. Every day in the last few weeks, we keep on hearing new records of a state, new records of the United States in general. Before we speak about the current situation here in the States and Texas especially, how about we look at bits and pieces of our conversation on the 17th of June, just so we get to know you better, so the audience gets to know you better. And let's see what the situation was back then in the US. So I'm gonna ask you to please put yourself on mute, and I am gonna do some screen sharing. So here we go. Share. Tell me, can you see the screen? So you're gonna do thumbs up when everything is okay. Perfect. Hello, good evening. It is almost 11 at night here in Germany, 17th of June, 2020. And we are here with Patricia, my fourth story of this series. So hello, Patricia. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
And well, let's start. Tell me who you are. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, I was born in the United States because my parents were doing their medical residency at Houston, Texas. in the 50s, and so my brother and I were born here. Then my parents were Argentine, and they went back to Argentina, and we were there for 10 years, so I was raised there, and then came back here to the US when I was 12. And my grandparents were immigrants from Syria and Lebanon, and my other grandparents were immigrants from Spain.
Oh, wow.
And we were immigrants here in the US. My parents were immigrants here. So I feel like I have to be an immigrant too. So I started early on to want to live abroad and learn other languages. So of course, I was completely bilingual, and then I learned French, lived in Europe, in Rome, in Paris, in Barcelona, and I've been to over 60 countries. I've traveled all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And I became a journalist after working as an international product manager in Spain and France, and decided that I really wanted to be a journalist. And went back to school, get another master's at Columbia University in New York, and then worked for Telemundo and worked for PBS until 2012. And then after that, I started my own production company. Besides all that, I like to sing, so I've done some CDs, music, and love to teach, and love to travel, and love my family and my friends, and I'm just a normal gal, I guess.
Well, every story, that's what I want. Every story in the series is a story that needs to be told. And yeah, currently, so you live in Texas. If you could tell me right now, what is the most important thing going on in Texas? So what's the topic? What's on the news? What is happening right now in your country? So in the US in general, but specifically in Texas that you can share with us?
There's a 30% increase in hospitalizations in the last few days. My friends, who are many doctors, are very concerned. 9 local mayors in Texas have written the governor and said, please let us demand that people wear masks. The governor, I feel, is in denial of what could happen, because we are supposed to, there's some study, I can't remember, University of Pittsburgh or something like that, that says that in 2 weeks, we are going to be the number 2 county in the country in the increase in the number of cases. Texas is a very conservative state, and a lot of people believe that we're exaggerating and the economy, we're destroying the economy because of this, and we need to open up the economy. And, I think we're all in agreement that we want the economy opened. But if you're going to open the economy, for God's sake, then take some precautions and guidelines and follow them. We don't have that here. Half the people that I've seen on the weekend are not wearing masks. They're not practicing social distancing. So I'm very concerned about Texas. Very concerned. Right now, I think we only have 21% of our hospital capacity open to cases. And because it's not all about Corona. There are other cases. There are other ICU cases. So this is one problem people don't realize, is the logistics. They think, well, there's not that many people dying. Well, there's not that many people with cases. That's not just what this is about, which I think every death is a problem, but it's also about logistics. We do not have the capacity, maybe, to have all these cases come into the hospitals, along with all the other cases that we need to take care of. So I think a lot of people are still in denial in Texas, and I do think we are the state that, because we're not so like New York, where everybody lives in one place and everybody's together, the density isn't there here. People are not so impacted, and there's not that many people dying here, per capita. So until people actually see it, like they did in New York, I think it's going to be an issue that a lot of people are not going to pay attention to.
And that's even knowing that this morning the last number that I saw was that the US had 119,000 deaths. So Texas, yes, it's a big state. Yes, it is one state, and you haven't had that many deaths, but you belong to a country that has almost 120,000 deaths. And like what you're saying about the masks, it's just one part of the puzzle to prevent the spread. And it's...
The United States, I think, is in denial still, generally speaking. Think about this. This has never happened. It happened in 1919, or I think it was 1916 to 1919 or 1918. That pandemic, most of us forgot about, and I think a lot of people here are in denial. And unfortunately, when you have a leader who is in denial, won't wear masks and thinks that this is just too bad, and we need to open up the economy at all costs. Then you have some people who take this very seriously, and some people who don't, and they politicize it. Oh, if you're liberal and you're weak, and then you wear a mask, and then if you're tough and manly, you don't wear a mask. These are stupid stereotypes that really we need to get away from, but
are hurting everybody.
I think that the fact that 9 mayors asked the governor to please make it a law that people who go outside wear masks, a lot of people are becoming more concerned, but if the governor says no, and so far he said no, so far you're exaggerating. And look, if at the top of the country you have people saying you're exaggerating, your main leaders say that,
what can you expect?
I don't, And then unfortunately, there's people who don't have a choice. There are people who have to work outside. There are people who are exposed to it because they don't have a choice. They live together, they're cramped, they don't have the economic means to get away. I mean, there's so many reasons why some people don't have a choice. But the people who have a choice, some of them are choosing not to do anything about it. So,
makes it much harder.
It makes it very difficult for people who are, especially the elderly, the poor, the people who don't have good health care. It's really sad. I think that we haven't really, I don't know. I think New Yorkers have a better idea. And even I have friends in New York who say that some people don't wear masks there. They don't care. So I'm concerned for my country. I am. I'm very concerned for the U.S. I think we need to really take this more seriously. I mean, some people do, but I think so many don't. And
that's the problem. At least with situations as a pandemic, it's a global health emergency, that it's not enough to have some few, like a number, even a good number of people that do abide by these measures that are there to help to prevent the spread. It really needs to be everybody that puts their own...
Yeah, and if it isn't everybody, then we can't really protect each other. And I mean, it's funny because I hear some people here say, well, in America, we should have the freedom to do whatever we want. And again, my freedom stops where your freedom begins. I mean, there's certain things that I think this is when the government has to, and some people are against that, the nanny state, why are they telling us what to do? Well, because by your actions, you may hurt other people that are not responsible for it. And so it's a real tough situation because a lot of people are suffering. They're losing their jobs. They don't have enough to eat. They're depressed. There's more domestic violence. There's so much going on. And it's overwhelming. Really, it's overwhelming. So, but I think, again, some people who have a choice should do better. should pay more attention to the mask and to really not go out so much and be careful. But you know, I don't have the power. I only have the power to control what I can do, and that's it. And I do write about it, but again, if you don't want to change your behavior because you don't believe it's an issue and people are exaggerating and destroying the economy, you know, again, this is so new for most people in the world. Nobody, I mean, did you ever hear, you probably did because you were infected. I never heard the word even pandemic. I mean, it's so out there. It goes to show you how little attention we pay to it.
To the world, exactly. Staying. So yeah, it's.
We're all in a way responsible for this, you know. I mean,
for sure. It's not only the United States, obviously. I mean, you have different countries that are at different situations.
The United States should have done better. We should have done better. And
different.
But the thing is, what this pandemic showed us is that we have a crazy healthcare system. And I'm not saying that you need to have Medicare for all. That's not where I'm going, because a lot of people use this, oh, she's a socialist. They don't even know what socialism is, but that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you can't have a system like what we had. Well, we have the money to do testing, and we didn't do it for 3 or 4 months. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, and
even
we do that, we do this, we do that. Everybody's doing something different because there's no national
message plan
to follow.
Yeah.
And even the CDC messed up. So I don't know. I'm really upset about that. But like I said, all we can do is what we can do. And, you know, as humans, as individuals, to be part of the solution. Follow the guidelines. I mean, it's that simple.
And after all, that's what a pandemic is in the end. The best thing you can do for a pandemic is do exactly what is needed for it to continue and live on and destroy it all. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to do the things to make it stop, to stop the spread. And there's not one solution. It's just a combination of things that need to be done. And it's really about what I have seen throughout, from the very beginning of the pandemic, even before it was a pandemic, when it was an outbreak and then an epidemic. It's really about altruism. It's really about thinking about the person next to you, the person in your community, in your city, in your state, in your country, in your continent, because any and everything you do will affect you, but certainly will affect your next of kin, the person next to you.
And also this has shown how important leadership is. I mean, by the way, 7 out of the 12 countries led by women are the countries that did the best job. Why is that? You know, maybe it's because women think a little bit more about community, you know, or listen to the experts. There are many reasons why, but the countries that are paying the highest price are the countries that have horrible leadership, whether from the left or from the right. It's not an issue of whether it's a leftist president or a right winger. This has to do with whether you're a leader or you're not. And, you know, this has shown how important it is for people to know who to vote for and who really cares and what good leadership is and what it isn't. Unfortunately, thousands of people have died and will continue to die because of lack of leadership. And like you said, lack of altruism. I mean, I don't just take care of myself. I have to do it for my family. I have to do it for my neighbor. You know, I do care that people are dying in nursing homes. I do care that most people who are dying are poor and they're minorities. because of health disparities as well. You know, it's really sad. It's really sad, and I am more hopeful because I think, unfortunately, the demonstrations, which on the one hand were very dangerous for people, on the other hand, it's like a sign that people woke up in America. I think people are pretty asleep here, and I saw a lot of young people come out and protest. I think that's positive. I don't think it's positive that it's happening during a pandemic because a lot of people are going to get sick.
Yeah.
But it was positive in the sense that we have issues here, and please listen.
And let's do something about it. Yeah.
Let's do something about it. Yeah.
Oh, I think like many people that have gone through what the US is going through or will go through are hoping that sooner rather than later, people will start realizing it is time to act and react accordingly to stop the spread. So I really wish things to change for the US and Texas and your
Sure.
Tell me, what are your hopes? What are your concerns? What do you think is going to happen in the US, but especially in Texas, in the next few days, in the next few weeks? What you hope will happen, what you don't want to happen, what you think will happen? Just give us your thoughts.
Well, let's start with what I think will happen. I think the cases will keep going up. Let's talk about the next 2 weeks. I think the cases will keep going up. I think people will start paying more attention. So they might start wearing more masks, more social distancing. What I'm hopeful about is that I do think there's a lot, we have the biggest medical center in the world in Houston. It's the largest medical center in the world. And I think those people that are leading the hospitals and the doctors and the nurses, I think they will speak up. And I think that they will drive this, they will drive it. And I think that because they're seeing what they're going to see, I think that the politicians will have to react to that. And like I said, the mayor and the county judge are more in favor of more measures to keep the spread from going up. The governor is still in denial. As far as the economy, I think it's really still very difficult because the politicians can tell you, oh, let's open up the economy, go to the gym, go to the restaurants, shop, consume. But the bottom line is the people who will decide that. The people will decide whether they're going to shop. The people will decide whether they're going to the hairdresser. The people will decide whether they're going to a restaurant or not. And I think the more people that you see dying, again, I have to say this, there's not, per capita, there's not that many people dying per capita. And I think I've shared this with you before. The problem is logistics. Besides the deaths, which is a huge problem, obviously the most important problem, the people getting the virus and dealing with it, it's also a logistical problem for the medical center because if they don't have enough beds for everybody that has ICU problems, because not everybody's a COVID patient. There are a lot of people who get sick with other things. And then the hospitals become overwhelmed, which, by the way, some hospitals are already overwhelmed in Houston. Some are already overwhelmed. They're just taking the patients to other hospitals. If we get to the point that New York got to, unfortunately, which I don't think can happen because we don't have the density that New York has. But if we get to the point where our hospitals start telling the world, hey, we got too many people here, we can't handle it, we're tired, because by the way, they must be tired, okay? Then maybe in 2 weeks, I don't think in 2 weeks that's gonna happen. In 2 weeks, I think we're gonna see spikes. I think we'll have cases going up. And so I don't think there'll be a reaction quick enough yet.
Well, staying now with the 2 weeks, because that is actually, as we've discussed before, when I reached out to see if I could interview you, that is really the message of these series, that 14 days can make a change, and it depends on your own actions. And before we get into what could happen or what will happen in 14 days, before we see that, I wanted you to tell me if you could give a message to the Patricia of the future Patricia, the one that is in 14 days. What message would you give yourself? Would you give to the future Patricia?
That no pandemic lasts forever, and that I need to keep hope alive, that I need to keep praying and keep meditating and keep exercising and keep doing what I do, and don't lose the faith, because I think it's going to get worse. I think by the time I'm talking to that Patricia in 2 weeks from now, I think it's going to be a really hard time for Houston. And I have to really fight the despair and the sadness and the frustration and the anger that I have been feeling about the way this whole thing has been handled. And so I would say to her, calm down. Figure out how to calm down, because getting upset about it is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help you, it's not going to help anybody around you.
Well, on that note, I wanted to thank you for your time. And well, Patricia, we will see each other in 14 days, and let's see what it will tell us.
Let's hope it gets better. Let's hope I'm wrong. Yeah.
Let's hope you're right. So, Patricia, you're on mute still. It's good that now this time it worked. Thank you again for having the interview. So 14 days and 1 day. So before we discuss, I just wanted to say one thing. As we saw before we started today, I gave numbers from the COVID tracking project. And on the 17th of June, the numbers I gave were actually from the Worldometer. As we know, different platforms have slightly different data, different numbers, because it really depends on when they import the data from the different places, how much access they have to the different places. So just to have that in mind, and that's it. Patricia, tell me, how is it that you feel seeing what was happening on the 17th of June, and what your predictions and your concerns were for now, 2 weeks later?
Well, unfortunately, the predictions that I had were right. We are much worse off than we were then. But it was to be expected, because the economy had opened up very quickly, and then we had I remember when Memorial Day weekend happened and all those young people were out having a great time. You know, I can understand people being locked up and wanting to be out and just like going crazy. I kind of understand that. But I knew there would be a price to pay, and we do know that most of the cases now in Houston are younger people, and so they tend to not have a serious symptoms or consequences for the virus, so they don't die. But still, people are dying. In fact, from the time that we spoke to yesterday, the death count in Houston was went from 298 to 534 in 2 weeks. It's a lot. It's probably higher today. But we are like right now, Houston is over 100%, 103% over capacity. In other words, we don't have enough ICU beds. They're all taken. And so, and then talking about, well, the one thing I missed was I said that doctors would be leading the way of what happens in Houston. That really hasn't happened in the sense that they have stopped, the Texas Medical Center has stopped sharing the information they were sharing before about ICU beds and about other things that are going on regards the coronavirus. And obviously, even the mayor is complaining and the county judge that we want to know the truth. We want to know what's happening.
We need the data.
There's political pressure not to say what's really going on. And yesterday, Austria's Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, at one point said, well, you know, if you're old, you should, you know, sacrifice yourselves for the next generation. In other words, sacrifice your life for the economy. He said yesterday that Dr. Fauci, this is number 2 in Texas government, okay? Sometimes the lieutenant governor is more powerful than the governor in Texas. He said that Dr. Fauci's full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the kind of leadership that we have in Texas right now. And, you know, knowing what we know, what we are in a very bad situation, state and as a country. And some people don't think so. Some people still believe that we're exaggerating and open up the economy and get over it. So what? People die. I mean, you have that. You have that going on. And if you don't have the leadership, this is going to get worse. And unfortunately, I think for now, if people don't react on July 4th weekend, which is another very dangerous date, because this is when Americans have barbecues and they go to the beach and they go to the park and
they're all like
family. And even though everybody's advising, please be careful, please don't go places where there's a lot of people. There's a lot of advice against it. It's still not, we don't know what's going to happen. Again, if people don't believe this is real, I mean, the president's favorite word for anything he doesn't like is it's a hoax, you know? So, let's not do let's not do more testing, because if we do more testing, we'll have more cases and it looks bad. You know, it's just nerve-wracking. So I think things are going to get worse before they get better. I do think eventually we will handle it. Eventually we have to handle it, and we know what to do. That's the sad part. We know what to do.
Yeah.
We're just
the
Houston, it is required to have a mask if you go into a business. Okay. So that's, some people are still not most people are following the rules, but a lot of people do not want to. They find this a way of, you know, whatever, protesting their constitutional rights. What they don't understand is the Constitution also allows you for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I'm not going to be very happy if I'm underground.
And also, you know, one thing that you just reminded me of when we watched some of the things you said on the 17th of June is you can open the economy, but if people don't feel safe, they're not going to go out shopping. They're not going to, you know, consume and just like give to the economy. And that is actually one of the things that have been said since the beginning of this pandemic. It was never a choice between the economy or the health of, you know, the population, the citizens of whatever country. They actually go hand in hand, because if the population is not healthy or they don't feel safe, then how can there be an economy? You know, safe. And right now, safe means making changes, understanding that this is not normal. So you cannot do normal, understanding that the pandemic is unfortunately here to stay, and you can't do things that you were doing before. Recently, we have seen a couple of days ago, it was again stressed that although a lot of countries, some countries around the world have managed and are managing the pandemic well in their country, overall, the pandemic is accelerating, you know? So you have to do things to stop the spread. Wear that mask properly and hygienically. Do social distance. Do not have big gatherings, especially if they're indoors, especially if the ventilation is poor, because that's where the virus spreads and breeds. And not understanding these things will just make it worse. And we have seen examples even of places where they didn't shut down, they didn't close. You know, it was a different approach that was taken. Look at South Korea, for instance. So there's
Well, I always remember when this whole thing first started, which by the way, because I had been in Europe right before the pandemic, and I already knew what was happening in Europe way before what happened here. Um, I mean, I started hearing about the pandemic seriously, and how it was impacting the economy in Barcelona in February. And I remember thinking, wow, we better start thinking about this. You know, this must be serious. And then I started reading, which, by the way, what makes me angry is that as a regular person, I had access to information that could have changed the course of things here, um, as anybody would have access, right? And they were already doing things in Asia and some European countries. And we knew in the United States during the 1918 pandemic, we knew that the states that had practiced more restrictive lockdowns and took better care of their community opened up their economy much faster and did much better economically than the states that decided to open up before they were ready, which is what happened in Texas. Our illustrious lieutenant governor would disagree with me, governor, but that's what happened. It opened too soon. If you look at the statistics and the science behind it, he shouldn't have opened the economy. A lot of states shouldn't have opened the economy. And even then, some of the states that did lock down are still struggling, like California, which means there's a lot more cases than we know. You know, we say 2 million, 3 million, it's probably 8 million or 10 million. And another problem is that we know that 30% of the people that have this don't even know they have it, or they don't have symptoms.
Yeah, studies now, the latest study that came out of Italy, literally a few days ago, Nature Research, showed that in this little town, where everything started, you know, end of February in Italy, it's actually over 42% of
We have a doctor here
asymptomatic.
Yeah, said the same thing in his hospital, that it was that way. So, you know, I think there's so much that we're learning about this. Also, you know, the nice thing, good news, God, death rate is going down. Here, I think it was 28%. Better treatment, better understanding of the virus, and also younger people are getting it.
However, we should not forget that it is good, but we don't know yet, because just like it takes time to see, you know, it takes 14 days or more to see your consequences of your actions, if you know you infected, if you spread the virus or not. It's the same thing with deaths. They lag, because you know the county, the city needs to tell the morgue officials, and then it takes time to get sick and die. So it is one thing that we should not forget.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they say the same thing that the scientists say. Well, we don't know because also there's a lag time for sure. gosh, I'm hoping that that's not the case. I hope that we have less deaths. We also haven't talked about the consequences of this virus after get over it. A lot of people are still very sick, even after they survived it. They're very, very sick. And also, a totally underreported story is the Native Americans of the U.S. They're being hit really hard by the coronavirus. They're struggling. And if you look at the 5 tribes of the United States, it would be the worst hit. If there were countries, it would be the worst hit in the world. There's so much wrong with the way things have been handled and the way our system works, our healthcare system works, that we're finding out, unfortunately, during a pandemic, which is killing people and making people very sick and destroying the economy. So I hope that we actually learn from this as a nation and as the world. I hope we learn, because right now we've been here in Houston, at least I have been pretty much in lockdown since March. And I started earlier because I had family in Europe that were telling me what was going on in Italy and Spain. And I was like, I better lock myself down. And so imagine I don't see this going away till the end of the year. So I think we're going to be living in a different kind of style of life where we have to really think, do I need to go out? Do I need to do this? Do I need to get on a plane? Like, I'm going to California at the end of July, and I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm going to wear out my mask and cover my eyes even. But, after a while, it's a risk you're willing to take, but it's a calculated risk. I'd never take my mask off when I'm outside, ever, even if it's hot. And believe me, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
unless I'm walking away from people in the park, but even then I wear the mask. So most of the time. So, but it's going to be really hard for most people to just, you know what, this is real, this is going to be with us, and if we don't take action, we're going to be here longer. So do what you need to do. And the people that are not doing it, I hope that, and I think they're the minority. I pray that they're the minority.
And I hope they start. And just really quickly to go over what you just said about calculated risks. Coincidence, yesterday, Dr. Mike Ryan, which, as we know, he's the World Health Organization Executive Director of Emergencies Program. Yesterday, in the usual COVID-19 briefing that the World Health Organization does, he actually spoke about this. He said, we all need to look at our own COVID-19 risk. Every person needs to do that. You need to look at your risk. You need to be aware of the local transmission, wherever it is that you live. So in Houston, for instance, you need to know what it is, what the rate is. And just think of this as other things. You mentioned going and taking a flight, right? We always choose, okay, should I take the flight or not? Should I cross the street or not? Should I get the operation or not? And he said it in such a way that it's exactly as it is. We decide if to go to a social event or not. We decide how much partying we do, how many dinners we go at, how many events we attend. And yes, science can advise you, your government can advise you, but in the end, he says, and it is true, it's up to us, right? It's personal motivation, it's personal choice, and it comes down to each of us. And if you don't feel safe, then it isn't safe for you.
I mean, what breaks my heart is the medical personnel and the people that have to be out there taking care of COVID patients. And many, by the way, we should have a monument, talking about monuments right now, a monument to all the doctors and nurses and custodians and police and whoever died because of COVID during this pandemic. I mean, to me, they are the real heroes. We should have a statue for them.
And because of the job they don't have the choices we do.
Yeah, and they're exhausted. And if you don't want to wear your mask because you think that it's infringing on you, think about those people, the hours they have to work, the risks they're taking, just like our soldiers, the risks they're taking to keep us alive. I mean, we owe it to them. We owe it to them to take care of ourselves and the people around us. I keep telling all my friends, when we get together, because we do get together, but we are separated, we wear a mask, and I always say, think that you have the virus and that your friends have the virus. That's how we have to live, as if everybody around you has the virus. And then what would you do? What if you didn't have a choice? And a lot of people don't even have a choice. And that's the sad part, because they're paying for this, for the stupidity of some other people, but they're poor people that have to live in cramped space, or they have to work out there, and they don't have protection. So, if anything, think about them. Do it for them. If you know. I don't know. I just don't think. I don't think there's a consciousness, a social consciousness about this. And we're getting there, but we're going to get there the hard way, and a lot of people are going to die in the process because we didn't get it. We didn't do it right.
The good thing, Patricia, the little ray of sunshine, let's say, in this pandemic, depends. You can take it as a ray of sunshine or you can take it as a cloud. It depends on each of us, is that it's never too late. It is just about more or less suffering, just about more or less suffering, more or less death. But it's never too late, and you can make a change, and things can go different. Each of us can make a change, and it really depends on us if the change is for good or for bad. I really, really hope that the United States, and it's not only the United States, right? We have quite a few countries that are unfortunately in the same path. So just going up, Brazil, India, Mexico, United States.
Mexico is totally underreporting their cases.
And also that. So Patricia, thank you very much. Before we just finish this story, based on the sad story, based on this experience that you had with me, this experience in 14 Days to Change, we had the first interview 2 weeks ago, and then we see how everything has changed. We see what your predictions, your concerns, and your hopes were. We left off on the 17th of June with you giving a message to your future self. And now I'd like to finish your story with you giving a message to your fellow Texans, your fellow Americans, and just the world. And it doesn't really matter if whatever country or whatever person is watching, will be watching, if they're worse off or better off than the situation you are in.
I mean, I would say to the world and Americans and Texans and Houstonians that we're in this together. You didn't question that much when you had to wear seatbelts, or when you had to wear a shirt to go into a store, or wear shoes. This is so much more important. This is so much more important. This is the event of our lives. There's not going to be anything, I don't think, for most of us, probably worse than this. So it's like a tsunami. And what I would say is think about others. Think about yourself and what you have to do to take care of yourself, but then think about everybody else. You need to think that you are part of the solution and that you can also be part of the problem. And if you continue to be part of the problem, we will never solve this, because we have to solve it together. And we should stop fighting each other over this. This is a health issue. Let me tell you, we all want in the world to have a job, to have food to eat, to have health, to take care of our family and our friends. We all want the same things. But if we don't play a role in making things better for each other, we're never going to, and we're totally interconnected. Because even if we have a solution, we're all interconnected. We're traveling. I have family in Spain and France, and I can't go see them. They can't see me. We can't travel to each other's countries. So we are in this together, and we have to figure it out and stop thinking and yelling and screaming that, you know, you don't want to, this is a hoax and this is not happening and you're exaggerating. There's not that many people dying, which I hear. Oh, the scientists are full of it. No, no. They warned us. They told us what to do, and we didn't do it. So you can listen, or you can just keep being part of the problem. So I say be part of the solution. You know what to do. You know exactly what to do. Try to figure it, even if you're living in a situation where you're living with a lot of people around you, try to figure it out, guys. We all have to figure it out. Doesn't matter what country you're from, what religion, what country, what city, we all have to play the game, and we have to win. Right now, the virus is definitely winning. We are losing big time. The whole world is losing. So we need to figure out how to stop this. And I thank God for scientists who are looking for a vaccine. But we got to be part of that. We have to be part of that, because we don't know when we're going to get a vaccine. And then it's going to take a long time to get it to everybody.
Exactly. To get it to the whole world, that's the thing. It's not one country, one region, it's the whole world.
So we know what to do. Let's just do it. That's my message.
It's a very good message. It's very straightforward, and it's realistic, because, you know, we can be optimistic, but we need to be realistic also. It's very dangerous right now not to be. Yeah. Patricia, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, and I really hope things change in the States.
It will. It'll get better. It probably will get worse before it gets better, but we'll do it. We'll do this. We'll resolve it eventually. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to vent. It's great therapy for me.
I'm here, and I hope everybody hears your message, hears your story, and listens to the recommendations, the hopes, the concerns, the reality that you're living, and do their own part, right? One by one.
They all need to be part of the solution.
Exactly. Thank you very much. 14 Days to Change with Texas, with Patricia Gras, and that's it.
Thank you.
Have a good day, and I'll have a good evening.
All right, take care.
Bye.